Right, I want to just share with you some tips about watering plants, especially watering any plants over winter, or autumn, winter and spring. First tip I can give you is to use these indicators, and this tells you how damp or dry the soil is. The bluer it is on this indicator, the more damp it is underneath, and it gives you the reading from approximately 5 to 6 inches below the soil line. Right, before watering in autumn or winter or early spring, just considering what you're watering and what needs water more. So things like herbs, their requirements in the northern hemisphere, especially in a place like England or Scotland, are going to be very minimal for water. Not really going to be growing much between late autumn and early spring. Definitely not going to be growing over winter. You can still harvest them and eat them. They taste best in summer when they got the sunshine to produce their oils and etc. So yeah, herbs definitely don't need much water. The other things that don't need much water through this period as well are things like kales and other brassicas. They're very drought tolerant. Yes, they will do better if you are watering them as well. The root development and leaf development is going to be noticeable when the temperatures are above 6 degrees. Things like grasses and bamboos and such like, they don't need much watering over winter, but give them a bit of water definitely mid-autumn, if it hasn't been raining much, and definitely in early spring as well. When they do start to grow, they grow quick, and especially if they're in pots, they'll dry out, so keep an eye on your grasses. Any shrubs or trees, the best time to water them is before they come out with blossoms or leaves in the spring. Right, over winter your soil is gonna look most like this, really damp all the time. But when it does dry out, it'll dry out for a couple of reasons, or a few reasons. One, they got a lot of plants around, and when the weather is picking up a bit, they soak up all the moisture. Two, you're looking at airflow in your garden will definitely dry out your soil over winter. So as the air blows over, it'll help to dry out the soil, which you don't really want that all the time. The third thing is that sun in winter does still dry out soil, so don't think the sun's not that intense. It still it still does dry out a lot. So you got sun, you got the wind, you got the plants soaking up the actual moisture as well. And the final thing what I can think of at the moment is the soil structure. So if you haven't got many plants in, it means the shelter of the soil against the sun is going to be not very good, nor is it going to be very good against the wind, and the actual organic materials help to hold in all the moisture in the soil as well. So I hope that's really useful for you. So just think about things of combating the actual soil loss. So make sure that where you've got empty spaces, you've got something planted. You haven't got too many trees too close together where you're going to soak up all the moisture in the soil. And if you've got some shelter around the garden, some screening or something just to slow down the wind, that'll stop the evaporation as well from the soil. And just good ground coverage as well, so a few evergreens is always good, like heathers or kales or something where it's producing some shade throughout the whole year. You've got the fact that if it's a frosty day in winter, then what you're going to get cracks forming into the soil, which will let air in, and this will dry out the soil quicker. So you'll notice often when it get a really bad frost, the ground sometimes is quite dry, and that could just be just due to the fact that it's cracking. The more structure you got in the soil and the more ground coverage you got, less chance you're going to get the really harsh frost affecting the ground. That if the ground is frozen or really, if it's really frosty on top, do not water at that point. Wait for it to thaw out before watering. The biggest watering tip that I can give you though is for fruit trees, and what you want to do with these is make sure the soil stays relatively moist throughout the whole autumn, winter and early spring, and give it a really good bucket full of water each week from spring onwards, even if it has been raining a little bit. Unless it's completely like a downpour, give it 1 bucket of water every week leading up to the initial leaf and blossom development. This will ensure that the plant's got loads of moisture to put out the blossom, put out the new leaves, and you're going to get a lot more fruit that year, more than you've had before. Right, take care and bye.